Hello, this is Rob with Developreneur, also known as Building Better Developers. Wanted to announce that we have school.developreneur.com. Feel free to check it out if you like any of this information, any of the content that we've sent, and you would like to see more. You can come out, you can enroll for free. We have free courses. We've got places for you to get better at just learning a technology, our how-tos. You can work on your business skills. We can help you with becoming a better developer, as in coding and things like that. A lot of the stuff you've seen on YouTube, we also have out at school.developreneur. We just have it in a little more of a educational format and a way for you to track your progress as you move forward becoming a better developer.
Okay, next we have collections. So now, not only can we look at strings, look at objects, we can actually take collections. So I've created a list of person, test people, and I'm going to add John Smith and Jane Doe to this collection. Now, within this collection, we can now check to see, so as you can see, I copied the example from their from the AssertJ page. So in their example, they have all these methods and classes that you have to kind of include to see what's going on. It makes it hard to read. But here, I just went with a simple approach. So we'll get rid of that line. So collection is specific assertions, and there are a lot more. So we can assert on a collection, not just a string, but on a collection. We can check things like its size. We can check to see if it contains the objects that we want. We can also check to see if it doesn't contain the objects that we want. So this is, again, pretty slick, pretty useful, and very readable. We can assert that our test people, our collection, is 2. It contains John Smith and Jane Doe, and it does not contain random people. So if I run this, this will pass. However, if I switch this up and I put random person here, okay, so take Jane Doe, take random person. Now, if I run this, this should fail because test people does not contain random person, but it does contain Jane Doe. Well, let's look at the nice error message that we get to basically tell us what we did wrong. So if we come over here, so Java assert error expecting person with John Smith and Jane Doe to contain John Smith and random person. So we failed at the second criteria because it could not find random person. Random person was not in our collection, which makes it very easy to look at this and say, okay, so we asserted that test people has 2 passed, but we failed on this line. We failed because John Smith was there, but random person was not. Now, what if I add random or Jane Doe back? Now we should fail on this line. So if we run this again, read our error. So again, we're expecting it writes out the whole collection for us. This is so slick, very helpful. So we're basically saying, okay, we made it past the count. We made it past the expecting. So we're expecting John Smith. We're expecting Jane Doe, but we're expecting not to contain Jane Doe. However, it did find Jane Doe. So when we go back and look at our test, we know that we failed on this line. So if I put revert that back. Now say we want to check on this one. So it has size. Very easy to read. Expecting size 0, but was 2. And it tells you what was in the collection. So again, pretty straightforward, fairly easy to understand. And the nice thing is it's so readable. It's so easy to follow. Whereas if you just use standard assertions, again, you're going to have to create multiple lines of assertions, do multiple lines of checks, and it's going to get bloated and very ugly and very unreadable very quickly. Right? So that's a very simple example of using collections. Let's move down to the as method. So as is used to describe the test and will be shown before the error message. So this is neat because now we can even override at test time what it is that we're doing with our test. So we can actually name or describe what our test is doing within the test. Again, keeping it with that very readable flow that AssertJ gives us with the fluent. So we have assert that John Smith.getAge .as. So we're going, all right, so we're asserting that John Smith's age, as we're going to check the age of John Smith is equal to 65. Now, so we're going to check %s. So we're using the string placeholder for strings. And then we're going to replace that with the actual name from our objects. We're going to check John Smith's age is equal to 65. So now, just by reading this, it's very easy to read. So we're going to assert that John Smith's age as checking John Smith's age is equal to 65. Now, this may seem a little redundant here, but when we run this, we're going to see that on our report, it's very easy to read if it failed. So right now it passed, so we're not going to actually see anything. But if our age was wrong, and I ran this, now we failed. So now our comparison failure checked John Smith's age, expected 64, but was 65. And what's really cool is it actually tells you or identifies what character was different. So not only does it tell me that 64 is not 65, but it actually points out that it's the first number, the single unit number that was different. Again, making this very easy to debug and very easy to follow. All right, so we'll put that back. So that is the as. So that again is to describe the test that you're doing. All right, so next, say we want to test some assertions. This one is straight from their example. I thought it was pretty clean, very easy to follow, so I didn't want to go too far off the rails. So there's two ways we could do this. So we can assert that we're going to get an exception. So we're going to assert that a thrown by. So instead of asserting that some pass is going to work, we're going to assert a thrown. We're going to assert an exception is going to happen. Then we're going to use lambda, and we're going to essentially throw the assertion and the message that we want. Now, this is just a straight example. We're forcing the assertion. We could call John Smith's age, or we could call our calculator, and we could trigger whatever the action is that creates the exception, and then we can verify that the message was thrown by using hasMessage. So to read this, it is assert that thrown by will happen when some execution occurs, and then we want to make sure that we receive the message from the exception. Now, if we want to use a little bit more behavior-driven testing style, we can do it this way. We can do throwable thrown equals catch throwable, again lambda, again using the throw new exception, and then we can assert that thrown, so we can assert that the exception has message containing boom. So you could do either. I actually like this a little bit more, but it does require you to actually do the separate the layer between the exception and the assert that. So you could do it this way, which is everything's wrapped together, which is very clean, or you could do it this way, where you actually write the logic that creates the exception, and then you test the exception. Both ways work, and both ways generate the same message. So if I wanted to run this, again, this will pass. And if we want to break it and run, and I expand this, so we see that the expected message was supposed to be boom at, but we received boom exclamation point. And again, exception assertion, test, array list exception, and assertion error. Now, if I put this one back, now it should fail on the second one. And as you see, it is the exact same message. So again, either approach works, you get the same result. Next, let's look at extracting assertions. So here is another useful way we can use collections and assertions. So here I'm again going to create a collection of persons. I'm going to go ahead and add all three people, random, John Smith, and Jane Doe. What's cool about this is using the assert that method again, we can pass in a collection now, not just an object, and then we can use this extracting method to actually extract an individual class from within our collection. So I can take person, get name, and I'm not even just checking the class, I can actually check all the objects in this collection based on their get name. So I can base it on a method. So person get name. Then I can use other comparative methods like contains, does not contain, string equal, and I can pass in a list of values to check. So I can say does not contain random, does not contain person. Another way of doing this, we can actually extract. So this is for checking a single value with multiple checks on get name, but we could also check multiple. So I could actually extract again, but this time, not only am I extracting get name, but I can actually get name, age, and state. So I don't even have to just use get name. I can actually use the variables. And then I can check to see if it contains. And this is cool where I can use the tuple method, which allows, it's a utility method to build a tuple. Basically, you can kind of chain out what it is that the values to match what it is you're extracting. So I can essentially create a mock object with random person for name, age, and state. All right, so let me save this, run this, and this will pass. All right, so let's take the first part here. So random person, so we're going to assert that the first one here, extracting person, does not contain random or person. So this time, I am actually going to look for the whole name, random person. So if I run this, this should fail because random person is in the list, and it does. It fails, expecting random person, so it's expecting, so the collection I'm passing in is random person, John Smith, Jane Doe, not to contain random person. However, it failed because random person was in the list. Again, I am not writing any of these I'm not writing any of these test cases. I'm not writing any of this logic. This is all built into AssertJ. All right, and then if I put that back to random person and say we want to test this second part here, And let's have Jane Doe fail. We'll set her age to be 100. Run that again. We failed. So we were expecting a collection, random person, age, state, John Smith, age, state, Jane Doe, age, state, to contain random person 12. Okay, that one looks good. John Smith, 65, Florida. That looks good. And whoops, we're looking for Jane Doe 100. That's not there. And it couldn't find that. So again, very easy to follow, very easy failures. Okay, and the last one we're going to look at today is filtering a collection. So not only can you pull out values within the collection, you can actually filter on the collection. So here, yeah, spaces. All right, so now we're going to take that same collection that we used previously, but we're going to filter on the collection. So we're going to assert that our collection, test people, we are going to filter on a character in the name. So a really character in this case is person. So we want person. So I'll change that to person. I like being descriptive. So we have our person object, person. So filter on person dot get name dot contains J. So we're going to look for all names. So it's going to return me all the names or all the objects in the collection that contain the name with the letter J, capital J. So this is going to return us, should return us just John Smith and Jane Doe, which we then can do dot contains only John Smith and Jane Doe. And this should pass. So if I run this, we pass. However, if I look for random person does not have J in the name, and this guy should fail. And it does. So we're expecting person, John Smith, Jane Doe, to contain only person, John Smith, Jane Doe, random person, but could not find the following elements, person, random person. So we're looking for that J. All right, so we go back. And again, so contains only, and then we can do contains, we can do all, we can do exactly, we can say null, and we can even check sequence. So there's a lot of different things we can do with this, which is really cool. All right, so here again, we're doing person, name dot contains J, contains only John Smith. All right, and the last one we're going to look at is combining filtering and extracting. So now we can actually, this shows you that you can do more, you can do pretty much anything once you start the stream, once you start the fluent path of assert that. So here we're going to assert that test people. We're going to filter like we did up here, again on person. And we're going to do person.name contains capital J. Okay, filter containing only, again, John Smith, Jane Doe, does not matter on the order. So up to this point, we are doing exactly what we just did in the first part. So we're going to assert that the test people with capital J in the name should contain Jane Doe and John Smith. However, we can go further. We can then, once we get these two objects, we can extract person, then we can extract their age, and then we can double check to make sure that the age contains 65 and 99. So here we get person, we extract the age, and then we check to make sure that that contains 65 and 99. So we can check for the object, and then we can actually check for the values. So if we save this, that should pass. Let's say our age was 100, which is wrong. We should fail. So we're expecting 65 and 99 to contain, oops, we had 65 and 100, but we could not find 100. And that is pretty much Assert J in a nutshell. So any questions or comments?
Actually, I did have a question. The as operation, I know that I've seen that used, but I myself haven't used it. I've always thought of a use case for it, though, with reporting. Maybe not at the unit test level, but possibly even at the integration or load testing, whatever, one of the higher levels of testing, using that as operation to couple into like, good job, honey. Couple into like X-ray, and then you're reporting that stuff out in a specific format because you've got the as operation. Have you seen anything like that? It's probably me trying to guilt the lily.
Yes. So
okay.
If you go back to some of my TestNG presentations, granted, those I was not using Assert J, but it's the same practice. What you could do is, as you create your unit tests or you create your individual assertions, like in this case here with Assert J, you can inject the description that you want to go with that specific test with Assert J at the actual assertion level, which is awesome because it goes with that fluent, that flow, that chaining method where it's easy to read left to right what's going on. When you generate the report, it's going to appear on your report in that nice, clean, concise way. TestNG allows you to essentially override that. You can do it both at the unit test, or you could actually do it at the test suite in the XML, which is kind of why I like TestNG a little more than JUnit. Plus the fact that you can actually do a lot more with TestNG as far as like system level testing, integration testing, and things like that. Whereas, like I think you've seen with integration testing, we have to kind of fudge it a little bit to make it work within the unit test environment.
Very nice, good stuff.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Man, how big is this thing? Anytime I'm thinking like Java is up, I feel like it's pretty much done. I'm thinking, is this a new thing in Java?
No, this is a library. So think of this like a plugin like TestNG. It is a library you can add to your project to enhance your unit testing.
Okay.
Good questions. I'd like to thank you for your time. We spend a lot of time talking about different topics at Developreneur. We cover different things like testing, best practices, how to be a better developer. So if you have any ideas or any topics that you would like us to discuss or talk through, you can reach us at any of these locations. You can email us at info@developreneur.com. You can reach us through our Contact Us page on our main page, developreneur.com/contact us. We're also on YouTube. You can find the YouTube link on the main page of our website. It's a very funky URL, so I'm not going to read that out. We're also on vimeo.com/developreneur. We're still on Facebook at facebook.com/developreneur. And we're on Twitter at twitter.com/developreneur. Our goal is making every developer better. Have a great day.